to Jonathan Mickles with the Strategic Multifamily Investing Podcast, and I have with me a good friend of mine and mentor, Mr. Aaron Rice. How's it going, Aaron?
It's going great, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You are a repeat. I know a couple of years ago we were talking from the metaverse
That's right.
and doing what is it, VR work with what tool was that we were using?
Verbella.
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 And that
Yeah,
was
I didn't have as much gray hair back then, but
yeah, I noticed you left the just for men and everything. So, you know, everybody, this is going to be a very casual conversation interview. Aaron and I have known each other for, well over almost 15 years now, man.
yeah,
Wow, it has been 15 years.
yeah, it's been a while. It's been a
Wow, this
minute.
is yeah, it's been 2024 that we're recording this, and we met, I think, back in around about the 2009 era
Yep,
at the Sharfin Institute
that's right.
with Alex Sharfin and Katie Sharfin, who at the time were leading
Shout out to Sharpen.
just the
Shout out to the Sharpens.
yeah, shout out to Alex and Katie. How's it
Yeah,
going?
yeah.
Um, Aaron and I were both instructors. Aaron was a instructor, well on his way to being a master instructor. Did you get that designation?
I claim it. I didn't get the paperwork, but I claim it. I don't have the plaque, but I claim it.
You definitely are there. We have to reach out to Tony for that now.
Right,
He
exactly.
was teaching the CDPE certification in residential real estate. That's a certified distressed property expert designation where he was teaching real estate agents how to work with people who were in short sale and foreclosure
Hmm.
territory, how to get out.
Yep.
And I was teaching the certified investor agent specialist designation, teaching agents.
DIAS.
Yeah, man, how to work with investors in taking down properties and stuff. So, and we were both in the Washington D.C. area slash Baltimore areas,
Go Ravens.
and we just yeah, we kept in contact. So, you've had a very storied career, my friend. You started kind of in like telecommunications, kind of like
Mm.
right
Boy,
way
taking me
back when.
back. Yes, yes. That's how I got my start into real estate. I had a Verizon wireless franchise in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside of Potomac. And at that time, if you purchased a new Mercedes, the phone came in the armrest. And so we'd get a lot of people that would come in from Herb Gordon Mercedes in Silver Spring. They purchased a brand new car. They were headed home to Potomac. They'd stop into my store and say, "We need to activate our phone." And so naturally, I'd be in and out of the store in their cars. And one woman had a very beautiful car. We just, started striking up a conversation. I was like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" She's like, "I'm a realtor." I'm like, "Well, what is that? What do they do? I want to do that. I want to drive a car like this." And she was like, I think you'd be good at real estate. You should try it." And I was like, "Okay." And here we are 23, 24 years later. So
There you go, man. So you got into real estate and now you're with the prestigious EXP Realtors, right?
EXP commercial, that's right. Yeah,
So
go
you started off
EXP.
in residential though, right?
Yeah, I started out in residential, been a residential agent for 23 years. And then I was attending a symposium, and one of the presenters was talking about Local Law 97, which is a very aggressive climate law in New York City. And he was talking about that, and this was about 2 years ago, and I was like, whoa, that's different. And then while I was listening to the symposium, I Googled Maryland climate law. Come to find out, Maryland had passed an even more aggressive climate law 2 months prior. And
Well,
immediately light bulb went off in my head, just like, wow, this may be a time to do something different because, the residential market was changing. It wasn't as hot as it was. Interest rates were rising. And it just, 23 years in the business, I needed something fresh. I needed something new. And I thought this was it. So I planted my flag in the commercial business and focused on decarbonization, sustainability, resiliency, clean indoor air, health and
hold on, you're speaking
wellness.
in tongues, Aaron. You're speaking in tongues as always. Hold on. So Aaron has been my mentor in multiple levels, especially around, climate change and laws that are being put in place. I want you to speak to a little bit to some people, that word, those two words, climate change is really, sometimes a hot button.
Yeah.
But, there is a lot of like eventual, I mean, like there's real stuff, real implications, not just to things that we see, but there's a lot of laws, like you just mentioned, that are coming into play. You talk to me about that and why you got so involved in that.
Yeah, so a lot to learn when you're transitioning from residential to commercial. Commercial is a different animal altogether. And then you throw in a layer of sustainability, resiliency, climate change, green, ESG, and all those, things that people talk about. Some of them are hot buttons, some of them aren't. I rarely use the words ESG and green. But we're all talking about the same thing at the end of the day. And ESG is environmental social governance for those uninitiated. So basically, 25% of commercial properties nationally are under some sort of building energy performance standards law. Okay. 25% of commercial properties nationally. Okay. So
That doesn't
every
matter, and it doesn't matter what class. It could be any class,
It could be any
multiple.
any class, any asset
Yeah,
class. And so, double check your community, your state law. Um, and most people have the laws, but don't even know they exist. Most owners, building owners, occupants, tenants don't even know that the law exists. So, and the building energy performance standard basically is where you need to input your energy usage data into a platform by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, called Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And this is where we get Energy Star certified properties, right? Your property's certified if it has an Energy Star score of 75 or higher. For context, the building that I'm in right now, my office, we call it the healthiest building in Baltimore. Our Energy Star score is 97. And
wow.
we selected this building on purpose because it's resilient, it's smart, our air quality is good, right? And all that matters because, it helps with, cognitive ability. It helps with, not feeling drowsy and sleepy. And I'm going to sleep better tonight because the air quality in the place that I work is good. So I
And
say all that
just
this, yeah.
yeah, no, no, no. As you're talking about that, I remember specifically because I'm from the Washington D.C. area as well. So, and my mom actually used to work for the Environmental Protection Agency
Mm,
in Southwest when it was down there at get the name of the place down there. I'm gonna remember in a couple seconds. But before they changed over the wharf
yeah,
down there in Southwest, she
yeah.
was down there at that building, and that building was that actually labeled with building sickness, as I'm
Mm,
remembering now. So they had
yes.
building sickness, and it was like, what in the world? This was way back, before she
Sick
retired,
building
and
syndrome is a thing.
what? Okay, what is that? Tell me what that is.
So buildings were not designed for human health and performance. That's not how they were designed. And in the 70s, they really started when they had the energy crisis, really started tightening up the building envelope, make them more energy efficient. But what happened was there was no fresh air getting into the buildings, right? And so that's where you started in the 70s. It became a phenomenon. That's where you started getting sick building syndrome, Legionnaire's disease, right? That comes from water just sitting and getting into the air system. So that's deadly. Radon is another deadly. And all the things that we're talking about, you can't see, taste, or smell, right? These are
Gotcha.
environmental hazards that you can't see, taste, or smell. And so, um, it's really important, especially for companies, nonprofits that have corporate sustainability mandates, environmental governance mandates. They want to be in high performing, healthy, smart, high performing buildings. And so, as a commercial broker, that's what we help them find are healthy, smart, high performance buildings. And let's say they're already wrapped up in a lease. We simply help them get their tenant space, Energy Star tenant space certified. We help them get Reset Air certified. We help them get WELL certified. So you can be in a building that's not performing, but still get all the appropriate environmental certifications, which then helps you win the war for talent. Because
Hmm.
a lot of millennials now are asking the question, what's your sustainability platform? What are you guys doing when it comes to environmental social governance? What's the air quality like? Right? I mean, these are $200. Kids are walking around with them. The last thing you want is an employee posting on social media that the air quality is not good in your office.
All right,
Um,
let's talk about this device you keep throwing up. What in the world is that? What
so
is that?
so this is the AirNet, and it's a mobile device. It runs on a AA battery. This AA battery lasts about 2 years, and it's monitoring carbon dioxide, temperature, and relative humidity. I
Hmm.
focus more so on the carbon dioxide. And so for context, outdoors is between 3 to 400 parts per million ppm. Okay. Indoors, you're good if it's between 8 and 1,000. So that's why it's on the green over here, right?
Yep.
When you get above 1,000, it'll turn yellow. And when you get 1,200, 1,300, 1,500, 2,000, it turns red. And I get a little beep on my phone. And, it comes with a mobile app. And so I have the same reading that's on the devices on my
Wow.
mobile app, right? And so I get a beep when my air quality is not good. So when the carbon dioxide is high in a space, it diminishes your cognitive ability. And so I like being in a place where I can focus. I'm alert. I'm not feeling groggy or sleepy. When you're driving, you often hear people say, if you get tired, roll down the window. It's not necessarily that you're tired, it's that there's a lot of carbon dioxide in the space and you need to get some fresh air. So the only way to drop this number down is to bring in fresh indoor air or be in a building that's, conditioning the air and filtering the air very good, which this building does.
So
Hopefully that makes
then
sense. It wasn't too
is
deep.
that but is that device easily accessible? Is it I can go to Amazon or some
Yeah.
other place
Yeah,
and
we
grab
sell
one of
we
those?
sell these at concierge.com, and that's CONCAIRGE. So we sell these, we deploy these. This isn't one of the quote unquote reset accredited indoor air quality devices. This is more for consumer use. We also sell, commercial units that are accredited
Is
by
that the
third party.
reset? What is reset? Sorry.
Yes, so Reset is the first and only third party verified real-time indoor air quality data platform. And so, back in the day, you and I both certified agents. You took a course, you got a certificate, you were at a certified agent that you had the skill set to be able to, conduct business in a certain segment. What Reset enables us to do and lead and well is actually certify the building. And so that's kind of what the transition and the paradigm shift that we've made is we're certifying buildings, certifying office spaces as opposed to individual agents.
Gotcha. So go to concierge in order to get one of those things. I'm going to have to get me one.
Yep.
I've seen you on LinkedIn. Every now and then you'll post a picture of where you are and what the indoor air quality is, and I'm
Yep.
looking to see whether or not it's considered good or not. So that's really nice. And you said there are a lot more people who are actually purchasing those, correct?
Yeah, especially during COVID. Because in places like Belgium, places overseas in Europe, it was required that restaurant owners, bars measured their indoor air quality. And you could see mine is starting to go up. And the reason mine's starting to go up is because carbon dioxide comes from me. I'm generating it, right?
Right.
And so I'm doing a lot of jabber drawing, and so that's why the number is going up. But because we've got good air filters, it'll start to decrease when I shut up. But yeah, places in Belgium overseas, you are required to measure and disclose your rating, your indoor air quality rating because of COVID. Even
So
in
was that
Manhattan today, every building has a B, C, or D environmental score on the front of their building, so that you know what I'm walking into.
wow? So then, in terms of these scores that are being, well, not the A, B, C, or D, but the number and actually publishing that, disclosing that,
Mhm.
is that like a real time disclosure? How how
It's
is
it's
how is that being
continuous.
published?
It's continuous real time. Every 5 minutes, it's pulling in fresh data. So it's updated every 5 minutes. And part of the reset ethos is it's got to be transparent. So it can't be a situation where you're coming in and only the building owner knows what the air quality is, right? What we're doing is making that data transparent. We use a level or a layer of 3D digital twin technology. So, ultimately, you'll have one of these at home. You'll have one at the office, and you can make your decision based on where you want to work, based on how good the air quality is,
Okay, so
right?
you
So
said something else again. You keep using these words. You said we have a 3D twin thing that what is that, sir? Can you explain
yes,
that?
so
Break that
so
down.
we connect the indoor air quality data to a Matterport 3D digital twin. So you'll be able to, on your mobile device, zoom into the conference room that you're getting ready to book for a meeting, see the conference room in 3D, and then also click on a tab to get the real-time indoor air quality data at that time. So think about that at the office, think about that at the school. Want to know what the indoor air quality is in your child's classroom? You can get live real-time indoor air quality data. And they've done that in Boston. In Boston, they deployed 5,000 indoor air quality monitors into every classroom, every main office in the school, every nurse's office, and one on the exterior of the building. They're truly committed to making sure that their students can perform at the highest level. They're our future. So indoor air quality is a big thing. It's a really big thing. Pollution kills thousands and thousands of people every year. And again, these are things that we can't see, taste, or smell.
So then what people probably should get into, especially, right now we pretty much focus on the asset class of multifamily, and housing. It might be useful for those that are, investing in, renovating properties, whether they be BC or A class properties, to probably invest in looking at some of the indoor air quality. Are you seeing laws in the state of Maryland or other municipalities that are getting tighter? What are you seeing as it relates now
Yeah, so Maryland has the most aggressive climate law in the country. And I'll tell you what makes it so aggressive is by 2031, all buildings 35,000 square feet or more, residential, commercial, doesn't matter the asset class. Schools are excluded, government buildings are excluded, and some historic properties are excluded. And I'm talking, primary schools, not secondary. So colleges are involved. If it's 35,000 square feet or more, they need to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 60% in 7 years. By 2040, they need to be net zero 17 years from now. For context, it took the Empire State Building 10 years to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 54%. So, and we've got a lot of historic properties here in Baltimore, got more historic properties than DC and New York combined, more than any other city. We got 65,000 properties that are on the National Historic Registry. And so, retrofitting these older properties, the historic properties, to bring them into compliance is going to be a heavy lift. But
Yeah.
therein
So
lies the opportunity. Yeah.
it reminds me of back in 2008, 2009 or so. I'm about to give another shout out to another mentor of mine. It'll come to me in a couple seconds. But Maryland was also the strictest in the nation at one time around foreclosure laws.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yep.
when, foreclosure started ticking up around the country. I was involved in that from an IT perspective. I was working for a real estate based company. And in 2007, August of 2007, one of my clients actually experienced a 50% jump in foreclosures. And then that led to the foreclosure revolution, throughout. And oh my gosh, I want to say his name is Russ, but that's not his name. But it'll come to me. But he and I went to Annapolis, Maryland, to actually lobby
Mm-hmm.
the law that ultimately got put in place, and we
Mm-hmm.
we we asked for some carve outs for trying to help others get through and help people to negotiate
Well, it
foreclosures
worked.
in
Well,
Maryland.
your lobbying efforts worked because we did 75, 100 short sale. We not only taught other agents and certified agents in pre-foreclosure prevention, but we were doing our own short sales as a real estate team. We did probably 75 to 100 of them, and there were people in Maryland that hadn't paid a mortgage in 2, 3 years, and still were able to avoid the foreclosure, unlike a Georgia that's like 35 days of missed payments, you're out of there. Virginia, 25 days of missed payments, you're out of there. Texas, so all these other states, uh, within less than 30 days of not making a mortgage payment, you can face the foreclosure. But in Maryland, yeah, it was a lot easier
So
to
shout out, I,
to
I
mitigate
remember his name, Bruce Norton. Shout out to Bruce Norton.
Bruce, yes, I
You know
remember
Bruce.
Bruce. Yep,
So
yep.
he invited me. He was the only investor that was allowed to come and actually testify on that bill.
Hmm.
They go up there and he said, Jonathan, you want to come go with me? And so it was just amazing to be in the chambers
Yeah.
as we were, sitting there with that particular law. But So getting back to this ESG thing now, you're really doing, well with this, and you've made a drastic pivot, and I think it's really necessary. I know that also, what I have been understanding, I guess, from your lens and others, is that climate change, as much as people may want to say it's nothing, it's whatever, it really is impacting places like the Eastern Shore of Maryland, which is, I think, a very near and dear space to you. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Dorchester County, Maryland. It's the home of Harriet Tubman. And I've over the last 3 or 4 years have become really passionate about, really understanding her history, her father's history, and just African American history. I mean, we started American cuisine. Okay, we
Hmm.
were had the first chefs, and I'm talking about the Black community on the Eastern Shore. So soul food, American cuisine, that all started here, back in the 1700s. So a lot of history out there, but because of sea level rise and because Dorchester County and the Eastern Shore is such a low-lying area, it's really susceptible to climate change and sea level rise. And so you might not see it where you live. I don't see it in Randallstown, Maryland, where I live. You live in the Midwest, you don't see it. But we've got 3,100 miles of coastline here in Maryland. And because it's so low lying, and you heard about the heavy rains that we had a couple of weeks ago. Our inner harbor here in Baltimore was flooded. A
Well,
lot of places got flooded. So, and flooding is a big issue here. So, but in Dorchester County, it's pretty hard hit. And so the prediction that we're hearing from Zillow is that in 71 years, 65,000 homes, about $20 billion worth of homes are actually going to be underwater because of sea level rise. And so again, you might not see it in your neighborhood, you might not see it in your community, but it is affecting Maryland. It is affecting the Eastern Shore. I'm out there probably once or twice a month because I do a lot of business with different arts and cultural institutions out that way, and I can see it. It's palatable. You can see it after a heavy rain. People's front yards. There's fish in people's front yards. There's caskets that are unearthed. You can't even bury them because the water table is so high. They put them, kind of surface level, and those start to kind of float away. So it really is a disastrous situation. And um, you know, I didn't realize that this existed living in Central Maryland. I felt like it didn't really affect me, and I wasn't connected to it. But then once I heard Alex and Lisa Green, who own Harriet Tubman Tours, they're on a panel discussion after watching a movie about Dorchester underwater. Um, I just was like, because now their tour routes are being affected. There's certain places they can't go because of sea level rise. The Maryland Department of Transportation just discovered Ben Ross's home, and Ben Ross is Harriet Tubman's father. They just discovered the site of his home, and they're having trouble excavating and doing some archaeology there because of the sea level rise. And so it's like, American, this is all American history, our memories, they're kind of just floating away. And so um, once I connected that to the industry that we're in, the building industry, and realizing that buildings are creating the problem, and it's not actually the buildings, it's the people that occupy the buildings. Like buildings don't generate energy, it's the tenants and the occupants that do, right? Buildings don't generate greenhouse gases per se. It's the tenants and the occupants that do. So, once I found that out and made the connection, in urban areas like Baltimore City, 70% of the homes, the buildings, commercial buildings are generating greenhouse gas emissions. It comes from 70% of the buildings. So once I realized that, like, whoa, I'm selling a product that's selling, leasing, the product that's causing this problem, a light bulb went off. And so now I think I might have a granola bar in my bag. I just hugged a tree today.
there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, literally, I just had another podcast, probably about a week or so before this recording, where I forget exactly what was the major storm on the Jersey Shore that happened a couple of
Mhm.
years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the gentleman, and again, you can go and look at the previous podcast. He will tell you himself, his dad was in the business of actually moving homes.
Mm,
So literally picking them up off of their foundation and moving them.
mhm,
And, in a given year, his dad would maybe do 12 a year. He
mhm.
said after that situation and, of the recent crisis, it got to the point that they were doing hundreds
Yeah,
in a year
yeah,
where they had to move home. I mean, physically pick up homes, move them or elevate them or do something else in order to do that. I mean, you go from a couple dozen a year to hundreds a year. There's something going on, and
Look,
and you
de
know,
decarbonization is depending on who you ask, right? It's between a 45 trillion and 275 trillion global economy over the next, between now and 2050. This is the biggest business opportunity that anyone has ever had that's untapped.
mm,
The decarbonization, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's doing environmental social governance audits, whether it's individual companies wanting to find healthy, smart, high performance buildings. I mean, the one segment of the office market that is not struggling are Class A, newer or trophy properties. They're not struggling at all in this economy. They're doing very well. My building, I think, is 100% occupied.
mm,
You can't get in here because it's such a high, smart, healthy, high performance building. It's the Class B, Class C buildings that are struggling. Those are called, I hate the term, but they're called brown buildings. Like, why did you have to
mm,
choose brown? But that's the word that the industry term. Those are the ones that, insurers won't insure, financiers won't lend on, and tenants don't want to be in.
yeah. And I would again, I keep reiterating. I know that a lot of people, some people say there's nothing here to really look at. We shouldn't really focus on this. We should get rid of it. I was just watching another real estate agent out of San Diego, and he's also doing real estate investing. And his video, quote
That's
unquote,
the
was
one you sent
clickbait,
me,
but
right?
it wasn't. Huh?
Yeah. That's the one that you sent me, right?
Yeah, I sent you
Yeah.
the video. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
it's clickbait. No, it's not clickbait. He actually showed a picture of, the after effects of what they call the atmospheric river, right?
Mm,
That unleashed on San Diego, and he was talking about the possibilities or not possibility of having those homes, buildings, cars insured, the impact that that's going to have on insurance, the impact that that's having. I had yet another podcast recently where I was talking with somebody else who was in San Diego, moved to Texas, and said that he's seeing even more, impact on costs of insurance,
yeah.
even for his multifamily, his buildings and things of that
Hmm.
sort.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yeah, I
there's
mean
there's a
it's a
good.
big deal. It's a big deal. You know, yeah, there's going to be a point where it's just if you have an older asset, it's going to be difficult to get it financed. It's going to be, obsolete. Um, we sure don't like tearing down buildings because of all the embodied carbon that will be lost, but um, you know, there's got to be a different way to handle this. And I think doing what's called a deep energy retrofit is the pathway
Mm,
to make these
got it.
properties energy efficient, smart, healthy. Yeah.
Well, that's good, and it sounds like you've got a couple of solutions here. So,
Well,
say I'm a
that's why we're called concierge, right? Kind of like a
there
concierge in a high-end hotel.
you go.
You check in, you drop your bags in a city that you're unfamiliar with. The first place you go is the concierge. Okay, where do I do this? Where do I do that? We're just the concierge for anybody that's looking to do anything with energy efficiency, indoor air. We can lead them in the right direction.
Got it. And so you lead them in the right direction, meaning that you have contractors, or how do people engage with you? Because that's exactly where I wanted to go next. Was what is the light at the end of the tunnel that's not a train? What do people do? What should they do? I've heard some things. I now need to figure out some. What do I need to do?
The first thing to do is just to test the indoor air quality. And so we will come out, and do a 30-day, just kind of take the pulse, what's happening in the building, what's happening with the air quality, because that's going to lead to a lot of different things that one would need to address. Some of them are low cost things from just, letting in more fresh air to using MERV 13 air filters, to, installing indoor air purifiers, right? So there's some kind of low cost things that people can do without having to do a full deep retrofit. But the first place to start that's kind of low stakes, and this type of data does not need to be, transparent and given to everybody. It's kept private, but at least you're kind of just starting with a baseline of what's happening with the indoor air quality. That's probably the first place to start.
Okay. And so then how do people reach out to you to get around to doing that?
Oh, sure. You can go to our website. It's concierge, and that's CONCAIRGE.com, concierge.com, or they can call me 443-244-0051. I'm super easy to reach at Aaron Rice Helps on all social media platforms. So, or you can reach out to
Yeah,
Jonathan, and he'll hit me up and get us in contact.
absolutely, absolutely. So I had another, really important question. I tried to figure out what happened to the Ravens. The
I know what happened. I know what happened. Uh, we were doing so well, being number one seed, you get a 2 week break. Same
ah,
same thing happened to us in 2019. That 2 week break, I think, did us in. Kansas City just came off. I think they beat the Bills the week before, so they had a lot of momentum. While we were kind of, I'm not saying we weren't working at it, but they came off of a huge win and came right into Baltimore and did their thing. So shouts out to Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey and all them. You
right.
know,
Take that they had to go to the Super Bowl. There was just a lot of
yeah,
energy.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was our year, but there's always next year. Hopefully, Lamar Jackson will still get the MVP title. We'll
there
see.
you go.
He's dropping in the rankings, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Well, listen, man, this has been really good and very good information. I was just, also thinking about a lot of the other organizations around the world that are working on this issue. I know the United Nations actually has a really good group, that they're working on, and they're reaching out to other organizations around the world that potentially could offer some assistance,
That's right.
not necessarily to lobby per se, but
Hmm.
that can, offer solutions and help. And I think that you're one of those. And I'm hoping that somebody who may be connected to the UN to reach out to Aaron and say, listen, there's another perspective here. There's another, angle. Rather than just, the same old faces and voices, we probably need to add some additional context, if you will, to the conversation.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
I've
And,
really, really, yeah.
environmental justice is a thing. Climate justice is a thing.
Define that for us. What is environmental justice?
Yeah, so basically what that is basically, people in Black and brown communities are often hit worse, um, and by some of these environmental hazards, and relieved last, right? So we're in what are called overburdened communities. And so the White House has actually put out a climate justice map, where you can type in an address of a building or a community and see, what the air quality is like in that community. We've got a lot of highways coming through our neighborhoods, highways to nowheres, where there's a lot of car traffic. I mean, cars, tires, all that creates what's called particle matter, PM 2.5. That stuff, that dust that you can't see, taste, or smell gets in your lungs. It creates asthma. So, we've got high rates of asthma in some of our communities. And so, the Biden-Harris administration has put aside 40% of the Inflation Reduction Act funds targeted specifically to uh, uh, Black and brown communities, Hispanic communities, tribal communities, to help them, alleviate the environmental pollution that's in the air. And one thing that I'll say is that, a lot of times when you hear about air quality, a lot of people are focusing on the outdoor air quality, right? Which is definitely something to focus on. But indoor air quality is 5 to 10 times worse
Mm,
than outdoor air quality, and we spend 90% of our lifetime indoors. So
yeah.
I'll give you a quick quiz, Jonathan. Uh, multiply your age times zero point 0.9 and tell me what that number is.
Uh,
Pull out
I
your
don't want to.
calculator.
I don't want. I don't want to share my.
Oh, please.
I got a little gray here. I shaved the rest of it off. You know what I mean? And I see yours is a little bit gray. I just
Yeah.
for minutes. The shipment is coming.
So I'm 54. Okay. 54 times zero point 0.9 is 48.6.
Mhm.
That means is I've spent 48.6 years of my life indoors,
Wow. Wow.
in a car, on a train, on a plane, in a hotel, in an office, at home.
Yeah.
I walk from home, I get in my car, I park in my garage, I come upstairs.
Yeah.
When am I actually getting some fresh air?
Right. So we should all get fresh air. And with the remote, you know, that trajectory doesn't seem like that's going to go anywhere anytime soon. With remote communities and remote working, more people are spending more times indoors.
That's right.
And you know,
We're an indoor
if
species.
there you go. And if everything still pans out as what we are hearing, you know, potentially in the future we'll have another COVID event, which will have us indoors again.
Yeah,
And
it's not a matter of if.
okay,
It's not a
it's
matter
a
of
win.
if. It's a win. And we started out this conversation talking about sick building syndrome. The 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 person who manages your building has more influence on your health than your doctor.
Wow.
Okay, I got
Wow.
I get these quotes. I didn't make them up. These are Dr.
Yeah.
Joseph Allen. He wrote a book called Healthy Buildings. Highly
Wow.
recommend it. He's a professor at Harvard. Yeah, it's it's a thing.
It's a thing. You know, you mentioned environmental justice in, you know, affecting Black and Brown, you know, communities,
Yeah,
you know, here within the United States. And I know that again, you
worldwide,
know,
worldwide.
yeah, internationally,
Yeah,
I was about to say there's been several documentaries where I think that the second documentary around Vice President An
Harris.
Inconvenient Truth, I think is
Mm-hmm,
what it's called.
mm-hmm.
Um, and his name is escaping me now. But the second version of the documentary, there were a lot of you know, countries that are island-based countries that are
Yeah,
really concerned
yeah,
that their way of living is not
yeah.
just going away, but also their
Al Gore's
lands.
film. You're talking about Al Gore.
Al Gore, yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
yeah.
Sorry, Vice President Gore. But yeah,
Like the
that
Godfather of this
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Okay.
He's the man, right? So we invoke Al Gore. You're welcome to come on the podcast at any time, and we'll probably reach out to your office. You know, you never
There you
know.
go. You
Hey,
never.
you know,
Hey, you never know.
we can reach out. But I think that there's something to be said there that there's a lot of people, not just here in the United States, that are going to be impacted by this, and I think it behooves us all to be able to do something. All right, we've got one last question
Okay.
that we always like to ask everybody who
Oh boy.
is a guest. We want to give everybody the boot. The boot is that piece of advice
I thought you were about to
to
kick me
move
off
on
the
to the
show like the
next.
Sandman. Not that kind of boat. Not that kind of boot. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, what is that piece of advice that you would give us to move on to the next level, or to move into action, if you will, with respect to this topic on climate change and healthy buildings, etc.
I'm glad you asked that question. January is Radon Awareness Month. Okay. November is Radon Action Month. And for those of you that don't know, radon is a tasteless, smellless, can't taste it, smell it, see it. Um, but it's the second leading cause of lung cancers. 22,000 people a year die from radon. Radon basically is degrading uranium from underground. Granite's in that as well. You got granite countertops at your house, it can be emitting some levels of radon. And so get your home tested for radon. That's actually what sparked this off for me. I got my home tested for radon, and the results came back to the equivalent of my family smoking 20 to 40 cigarettes a day. We've been in our home
Wow.
for 23 years. We've since gotten it mitigated, but it is a serious issue. And for January being Radon Awareness Month, get your home tested, get your office tested. You'd be surprised at the results that you'll find. And you can get a
Did, what
simple
what did it
$12
cost?
test from Lowe's.
What did it cost you to get it tested?
So I used an air quality sensor that had a air quality monitor that has a radon sensor. That's how I, so radon comes from under the earth. So what you're supposed to
Mhm.
do is test it in the lowest finished level of your home. Of course, I didn't know that then. I put it in my bedroom, which is on the third floor, and the numbers were sky high, right? So
Wow.
so that's what ticked us off. And then I went to Lowe's and I was like, let me double check. And I went to Lowe's and got a little $12 test, and I put it down there. It came, and then I let it sit for 48 hours. I sent those results to a lab, right? They gave us the results in a week, and it was the exact same as the sensor. Okay.
Wow.
And the sensor that we use is the same one that home inspectors use for radon. It's the same air things. It's the same sensor that we use.
Wow.
And so that's how we found out that we had radon. We got it tested, we got it mitigated. And basically what it is the gas is like literally sucked out of the lower level of our home. There's a hose put under the foundation of our townhome, and there's a fan that runs 24 hours a day, 365, and it sucks the radon gas out up to the chimney
Wow.
line, out to the top of the house. The interesting thing was we had to get HOA approval in order to do that because there's some structural things that happen on the exterior of your home. And I
Wow.
asked our HOA person, like, how many people from our community have called to get their homes mitigated for radon? He said, you're the first one. It's like, what? What? It's a big issue. Yeah,
There's
sorry.
a lot here. But that's very good. That's a reason to get the boot. You're about to make me go to Lowe's and get a test because I want to test and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
As some months ago, I had a situation where I was coughing and trying to figure out where the situation was, and I want to say thank you for the MERV 13 filter clue. So I went out and got MERV 13. I'm now using them in
Are you in
my
an apartment? What kind of housing style are you in?
yeah, I'm on the second level of a structure. So I'm on the second level.
Of
So
an apartment building.
yeah, like an apartment
20,
setup. Yeah.
25% of the air you're breathing is coming from your neighbors. Okay.
Okay.
Just so you know.
All right.
That's why you can smell the curry from down the hall, right?
Chicken tikka marsala is my favorite. So if anybody has a great slow cooker recipe, please feel free to send that. Marketing at redbootedllc.com. I will try it.
Get that
But
radon test, bro.
will do. Listen, man, thanks again. As always, enjoyed having a conversation with you. And if
Thank you
there's
for
ever
having me. I
anything that
appreciate
we can do, please let us know. All right.
you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, bro.